Hi, my name is Padgett, and I am the founder of Redefining Sobriety. And today I'm going to share a video with you all about a certain mindset practice that I started implementing in my own life probably almost 10 years ago. And I've used it off and on over the years, and also a lot of my clients have used it as well. And it is a really, really powerful tool in terms of shifting out of negative or critical self-talk or being really hard on ourselves into creating a daily practice that's really supportive and nurturing and helps reinforce us positively. So this can be especially helpful when we're trying to make a big change, like changing our relationship to alcohol, which, as you know, isn't easy. We've spent our entire lives, really, in a lot of ways, forming the belief systems and the habits and the way of relating to ourselves and the world that have led us to this place where we are today, and we have the relationship to alcohol that we have today. And so when we're going about making a change, it's not always the easiest thing to do. And because it's not easy to do, and if we don't follow through exactly how we wanted to all of the time, or we feel like we're making mistakes, then we can be really, really hard and critical on ourselves. And so this daily practice is called what I call the Daily 3. And it's a practice of 3 tools that really, when you give the intention and a little bit of quality time and really habitualize this shift in thinking for yourself and the way that you talk to yourself, it actually can have really enormous benefits, not only in the changes you're trying to make right now around your relationship to alcohol, but just in your life in general. So it's a really, really, really great tool. And I'm going to break down a little bit why it is so effective. So basically, the Daily 3 is the practice of intentionally sitting down in your journal, writing 3 gratitudes, 3 brags, and 3 desires every single day, or as many days as you can. If you can't do it every single day and you have a hard time, maybe your schedule's a little bit different on the weekends, I recommend at least finding a time where you can do it from Monday to Friday. If possible, early in the morning, where you're clear, you're fresh, you can reflect on the day before. Some people, however, do prefer to do it in the evenings, where they can think about the day and it really helps transition them out of their day and into feeling like in a good space and really celebrating themselves in the evening. Just my only tip for that is to try to not leave it until the absolute last thing you're going to do when you're really tired, because you might not put as much energy or intention or focus into it. So the practice of gratitudes, brags, and desires. This means writing down 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're bragging about yourself or you're proud of, and 3 desires that you have. And I'm going to talk a little bit more right now around why those 3 things and why they're effective. So you've probably heard a lot about gratitude already. There are tons of studies now that are showing how daily gratitudes can not only improve our mental state, but also our physical state as well. There was a study recently that came out that showed that people who wrote daily in their gratitude journal at the end of the study, I think it was 10 weeks long, felt more optimistic, more positive about life in general. They had better physical health. They also had an improved quality of sleep and reduced feelings of anxiety and depression, which is all really good. And again, when you think about it and you think about how resistant we are to make changes sometimes, the more we can do to get ourselves into a really positive mental state in order to be able to take on difficult changes is really, really important. Making a daily practice of gratitudes actually helps shift our consciousness into a different part of our brain. So when we're in a fear state or a stress state, we're in the limbic part of our brain. And gratitude has been shown to move us intentionally into the prefrontal cortex. That's our more evolved part of our brain, which is the part of our brain that's associated with moral and social cognition, rewards, empathy, and value judgment. And again, if you think about all of those qualities, these are things that we want for ourselves, right? We want to have better cognition. We want to be able to reward ourselves. We want to have more empathy for ourselves as well, and also to be making good decisions. And gratitude has been shown to really help us get to a place where we can do that. It also activates the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is the part of our brain that regulates hormones, our survival functions, like our basic functions like appetite, whether we're eating enough, sleeping enough. And also it is responsible for releasing one of the neurotransmitters neurochemicals that is responsible for feeling good, which is dopamine, which is also the known as the pleasure hormone. So again, when you think about trying to make a big change in your life, shifting a habit that's been years in the making, why not make a daily practice of something that's going to help reduce stress, that's going to help you feel more optimistic and positive about making the change, more empathetic towards yourself, have better sleep, have better physical health while you're at it, and release more dopamine. So these neurochemicals that we're chasing sometimes through alcohol or other substances, there are certain practices that we can use to give those to ourselves, and gratitude is one of those. Now, the next one is bragging. So this can be a bit of a challenging word. I know a lot of my clients sometimes feel really resistant to the word brag. We, especially as women, are often taught that it's not okay to brag about ourselves, that it's not okay to toot your own horn, so to speak, or talk about how great you are, really celebrate your successes. And the problem is when we look to other people to do it for us, we often find ourselves lacking or we feel disappointed. And not only that, when we're changing our relationship to alcohol, sometimes we don't want to talk to everybody about what we're doing. And sometimes we can even find that people in our lives might be critical of the decision we're making to either cut back on alcohol, or the topic of alcohol might have been a problem issue in our relationship before, so it might not feel completely comfortable sharing our successes or wanting to even talk about the changes that we're making, and that's understandable. I actually have another video all about one-liners. So if you're interested in looking like how to communicate around your decisions around changing your relationship to alcohol, make sure to check out that video, but that's another topic. So back to brags. Positive reinforcement has also been scientifically proven to be an effective way in teaching new behavior, and also having new behavior change be sustained. So if you want to make a change, it's been shown in studies of how we work with children, it's been shown of studies of workplace reinforcement. It's much, much more beneficial to learn a new behavior and then also sustain a new positive behavior if we're receiving positive reinforcement instead of negative reinforcement. So what better way to get positive reinforcement than to give it to ourselves? Again, we might look to other people to be noticing what we're doing or to give us that praise or that validation, but it's really, really important that we learn how to do that for ourselves. And again, when you're facing resistance or when you're realizing that making a change is difficult, you're more likely to feel able to take on that difficult challenge if you're encouraging yourself and celebrating the changes, even the little changes that you're making, rather than being really, really hard on yourself every time you think you fail. And it's so interesting for me sometimes when I speak to my private clients, because I speak to them every 2 weeks. And someone might have made a positive behavior change 13 out of the 14 days in between our conversation. So in theory, there could be 13 things to celebrate. And yet, most of the time, they're going to show up at the beginning of our work together, and it does shift over time, but they're going to show up at the beginning and say, I screwed up. Epic fail. I made a mistake. I didn't follow through on my intentions. I overdrank that one night. And I'll often say, well, did that happen every single night since we spoke? And they say, no, only once. And it's fascinating how much we gravitate towards the things we think we're doing wrong. And we're really, really, really hard on ourselves. So it's so important to shift that and recognize everything positive that you're doing for yourself. And I often call these celebrating the micro shifts or the micro betters. So a little shift that might seem insignificant, but you realize that it's something that you're doing differently. Or a micro better, okay, so that wasn't as awesome as I wanted it to be, but it's a bit better than it could have been or than it was in the past. So I'm gonna celebrate that because I know that I'm making progress. Even if it's not happening as quickly as I thought, I'm gonna celebrate all of the progress that I'm making. And it's so, so important. And you'll notice after doing this for a while that you start to feel differently. You start to have a different conversation in your head. You start to go easier on yourself. And you really start to enjoy the process of making these changes rather than be fearful or resist it, because what's going to happen if you don't do it perfectly? Well, you're going to be hard on yourself. And being hard on yourself doesn't feel good. Therefore, you resist even trying. So 3 gratitudes a day, 3 brags a day, and finally, 3 desires. So these can be really anything that you desire. It could be relevant to the change that you're making specifically around your relationship to alcohol. It could also be to other desires you have in your life for improved relationships or different things that you want. And it's really important, again, to give us the permission to have these desires, because desires compel us to work towards or to take action towards something better. And this is ultimately what we're doing. We're trying to create a better lives for ourselves and for the people that we care about. It's really important when you're thinking about the desires not to get hung up on the how or the when. So it doesn't matter how, really, right now. It doesn't matter even when. The most important part of this is just to allow yourself to have that desire, the permission to desire. So again, to recap, it's creating a daily practice with the daily 3, finding a time that works for you, and it doesn't need to be a long time. You don't need more than probably 10 minutes at the most to do this. To practice 3 gratitudes, 3 brags, and 3 desires every single day, or at least Monday to Friday if you could commit to that, and see how different you feel after a month. So that would be 4 weeks of doing this Monday to Friday, or every day if you can. I have one client who did it for 100 days consecutively. I have another client who did it for a whole year. And see how you start to shift the conversation. See how you start to be different in relationship to yourself. And if you want a guide for this and to also learn more mindset tips, I have an amazing workbook that I've put together with some of my favorite tools for shifting your mindset and really setting yourself up for success when it comes to redefining your relationship to alcohol, but also to life. And this practice is included in that workbook. So make sure to click on the link below and download it today and let me know what you think about it.